Alright my friends, my name's Michael. I'm a certified Wim Hof Method instructor and many people ask me, Michael, I'm doing the Wim Hof Method, but I'm still not feeling happy all the time. What's going on? Other people ask me, hey Michael, Wim Hof is talking about this awesome trauma release. Why can I not release my trauma and my patterns, and how do I release those patterns? How do I reconnect to my ancestors and stuff like that? So I want to clarify a little bit with this video about the topic of trauma release and the Wim Hof Method, how they work together, and also give you some tips that can help you on your journey. So maybe you ask yourself, do I suffer from trauma? Do I have some holding patterns inside of myself? Well, first of all, I think actually everybody is suffering from trauma to a certain degree, because I see it that way that when the life force, the natural expression, the happiness, the life is not running freely, and maybe you put yourself down and you just feel like something's wrong, I gotta fix myself, then I would say this is a traumatic pattern actually. And yeah, I mean, there's one kind of trauma that is well known, by many people. They think trauma is when a shock happens, like in violence or something extreme. And yeah, that's true. But there's a second category almost everybody is affected by. And I want to speak about that in a second. But first, I want to say something about the shock trauma, the singular event. What happens there is something is happening, and it's also important to understand that this is actually not the trauma. The trauma is actually the reaction to a certain event. So the way you deal with it, if it's overwhelming for your system creates, for example, a lot of energy, but you're not moving and hold the energy in, and then you hold this pattern inside yourself. This is something created by your own system. So it's not the event itself that it's traumatic, but the reaction to it. And this is cool because this gives also us the power to release the trauma again, because we created it outside ourselves as a reaction to an event. And the second category of trauma, which most people are not so much aware of, is development trauma. And probably almost everybody has some kind of development trauma. And what it means is that as a kid, certain needs of yourself are not adequately met by the parents. And then what happens is that the kid puts shame on itself and suppresses certain needs or emotions. So the kid learns to suppress the natural expression of the life force, the natural flow gets suppressed. So why does the kid do that? It's very, very simple actually. The kid wants to maintain a relationship with the parents. This is the number one priority because it is absolutely relying on the parents to take care of it. The basic needs are being provided by the parents. The safety of the kid is relying on the parents, obviously. So maybe it's too dangerous to ask for certain things, because then the mother says, or communicates, maybe even non-verbally, I don't love you when you ask for that, I reject you when you ask for something like this. Or when you feel angry, then maybe the mother says, I don't like you when you're angry. And this is dangerous because you want to maintain the relationship with the mother, like I said, or with the father, doesn't matter. And then the kid uses shame in order to suppress certain aspects of itself and hold them back, right? Can be needs or emotions. And then the kid learns, for example, to not feel certain things. or it can learn to act in certain ways, for example, to perform well. And then maybe it learns like, if I perform well, I receive love. Or if I take care of others, then I receive love. I don't receive love if I feel my needs and communicate them, but I get love when I help others first. And so it's like patterns of holding in and patterns of behaving in certain ways, right? And then those patterns become more and more automatic, and then they are like the operating system of the person. And maybe the person is not even aware of this, that it's actually run by these patterns. That means as a child, it's a very creative solution to deal with the situation in order to survive, because obviously the child has the conflict of am I being fully myself, or am I keeping up the relationship with my parents? And then the child chooses to bend a little bit and keep the relationship with the parents intact. And that's really cool, because the child needs to survive and makes it possible like that. But like later in life, obviously this can cause problems, because we will continue having the feeling that we are wrong. So there's internally always this subtle shame, because we don't allow our natural self to express fully. And this is done by shaming ourselves. And it had a good reason to do that, but later in life, it doesn't help us anymore so much. And also we have this constant battle inside of yourself, of one side that wants to be alive and just be, you just want to be yourself. And then there's the other side like, no, don't, it's too dangerous. Like, let's stick to our created identity, and to, the stuff that we had to do as a child. And then there's always this battle, and additionally the feeling like something's wrong with me. And obviously this is also leading to difficulties in relationships, because we cannot be fully ourselves, fully present in the relationship, and it's the communication is also difficult to say what you actually need and want clearly and directly, because there's always this I think I shouldn't do that, and it's scary to do that pattern inside. And so it makes connection actually, and as an adult makes connection difficult. So the patterns were created in order to maintain connections to the parents, and then later in life exactly the same patterns make authentic connection difficult. So and also the third thing is because holding back and holding in, and also the struggle, it's just stress for the body also, like it's like costing a lot of energy to hold on all the time, and the energy flow is blocked. And this is also leading to shallow breathing, for example, because you're holding here in this area a lot of emotions, and then you don't breathe fully, and this is changing your biochemistry in a not the best way. So the Wim Hof breathing is awesome to re-regulate the chemistry. But those holding patterns just block the energy, and this can cause all kinds of illnesses also. Okay, so how can we do something about all this stuff? First of all, I have good news. When you come to the alive as a kid, when you're born, you're free, you can express yourself, and then you learn the patterns to hold on. And this means you can also unlearn them, because you created those patterns for yourself to survive. And now is the time maybe to resolve them and learn something else, because the situation has changed. And it's actually possible to do that. Nowadays, the scientists know that neuroplasticity, so the ability of the brain to change, lasts on for the whole life. It's not just as a kid. like they thought earlier, now they know, you can change the brain all your life. So it is possible to learn a new way of perceiving the world and dealing in the world. So it is possible. And so how can the Wim Hof method help in this whole thing? Alright, so the Wim Hof method starts always with a mindset. Set your mind, set your intention. And Wim Hof always says like, it is possible. You can feel happy, strong and healthy. He always says like nature meant it to be, you know, the natural expression, the curiosity of a child. So he's actually referring to this primal state that you once had as a baby. And to get back there is fucking possible. And this is the core message, I think, of Wim Hof, like change your mind, like there is another way. You're stuck maybe in a way right now that's not feeling good and that's not feeling healthy, but there is another way. So this is the first way the Wim Hof method helps in this whole process. All right, the second way the Wim Hof method is helping with healing trauma, it's so beautiful because, you know, like we're such a thinking society, and the Wim Hof method brings you right into the physiology, right into the body, into the feeling, you know, like when you're a baby or a small child, you're much more in this sensory world and like making sense of the world and like what is happening here, like, and this is also, you know, in this phase stuff is getting stuck. And then when you go so deep into the system where the primal things are happening, it's possible that in the depth, you know, like the stuff starts moving inside of you, and then the stuff that was held back is moving around and starts flowing and freeing itself again. And then sometimes people release emotions when they are in the group, and I do the breathing sessions, like especially when we spend several days together and there's a lot of trust in the group, people start crying, you know, like the stuff is coming out, or like anger is coming out, or sometimes pure joy, because you also can hold back joy and it's, you know, it's stuck in the system, and then you let go and then you just open up and start laughing. So like spontaneous releases can also happen, or where you actually release the stuck energy inside yourself. And that's the thing, you know, you make the experience like there's something else is possible, I can go so deep and I can feel it, and also like sometimes already stuff just spontaneously starts moving. Sometimes people ask me like, I do the breathing exercises and I saw in documentaries that people are releasing stuff. For me it's not happening. And I will speak later in the video what can help that it actually increases the possibility that it happens. So this is gonna come later in the video. I want to stay with the physiology, because the Wim Hof method brings you also into the body and sometimes really forces you to trust the body. And this is crucial when you want to release trauma, because, you know, in a certain way, the body created some of the issues that are related to trauma, because the body is holding on to stuff, right? It's holding on the emotions, and you cannot change that with thinking, because the body is holding on the stuff, and then it's the job of the body to release it also again, you know, and you have to give it space and trust that it can do this process. And I had it sometimes, you know, when I was coming out of like intense ice water sessions, that I was afraid, and I was like, oh my god, like what's happening? Am I gonna get warm again? Because I was so fucking cold and just shivering like crazy, and then I was worried. And then a flip was switching in my mind, like, hey man, it doesn't help you ruminating about it. You have to allow the body to do the job. It's not the thinking warming you up. It's not working like this. You have to allow the body to do the process, and the body is intelligent and can, has its ways to deal with things. And the same thing is true like when you deal with stuck emotions. At one point you have to let go of the mind and allow the body to process stuff. Alright, so another way how the Wim Hof method is helping with healing trauma is in the following way. You know, when you experience a certain situation, then actually what now causes the problem is that you learned a certain pattern in this moment in order to survive, like the behavior style. And then it's also possible to unlearn that or to learn a new behavior. And for this you need neuroplasticity in the brain, because you wanna rewire yourself and react in a different way to certain situations. And so you need to change the brain. And there has been studies like what increases neuroplasticity in the most effective way. So how can you change the chemistry in the brain so that it is able to rewire itself and adapt and learn new things? And for this, they found out you need noradrenaline. It's a hormone, and they found out that it's released robustly when you do heavy breathing and when you do cold exposure. And what are we doing in the Wim Hof method? It's so cool. It really, like, everything is falling together, because obviously we do breathing and cold exposure. That means you increase noradrenaline in the system. It means your brain is more able to change and rewire itself and learn new patterns of thinking, of behavior, that are more helpful now that the situation has changed since you have been a child. Because as a child you were dependent and had to adapt to the situation in a certain way. Then the situation has changed. Now it's time to adapt again and unlearn the patterns that were helpful then, but now are maybe like more disturbing. All right, now in the end I want to give some tips, what to be aware of, what could maybe help the whole process of healing the trauma. First of all, it's the topic of using willpower against the topic of letting go. It's for some people a little bit confusing, because in the Wim Hof method, first you are very active in doing stuff. You're going into the ice bath, you're breathing heavy, right? So you're like actually using your willpower and like, let's go, I'm using my intention. And in my opinion, this is only the first step. You know, we go very deep, and then the second step is to let go. Right? Like I spoke about before, like when you need to allow the body to do its work. And it's really, really crucial to remember that, because sometimes when we see pattern in ourselves that we do not like, then we try to fix it, you know, like work on it and get it out of the system. And you know, like I like the idea that fixing something with willpower, it's working in the outside world, but in the internal world there are other rules at play. Like in the internal world, intention is good, but also you have to let go and allow things to unfold. You can invite them and then open up for them. It's another approach. So I think it's important to understand that when you are looking at the patterns that allowed you to survive as a kid, and also the emotions that are held in it, it's not about fighting them, but looking at them, understanding them, and what they actually want and why they are there, and then they can maybe relax a little bit. You know, like you don't fight against them. It's more about understanding them and integrating and allowing. All right, another tip that I want to give for supporting the process of trauma healing is the topic of outside support. I would definitely say that it's absolutely impossible to heal trauma alone. I don't know, it's maybe sad news, but it's just as it is, it's intense work, and the system actually feels and understands if there's support from the outside in the form of a loving presence, like non-judgmental presence, and then it's more easy for the system to relax, let go, if there's somebody who's got your back. And I've seen it in myself when I was in the instructor training program, that Wim Hof was guiding a breathing session. I was there lying and breathing, and then there were 5 other Wim Hof certified instructors just standing around the group, not doing anything. And I felt like with the presence of those people, just observing, it was much more easy for the internal process to start and to start flowing, right? So I started crying, and like stuff was like healing, and was like, like if it's like a healing thing, like it's not uncomfortable at all. It's just like beautiful to integrate this and actually finally feel what was like stuck, and you are melting back into yourself, and it's beautiful. And it was also the case that I started crying, and then immediately a good friend of mine started crying afterwards, and then another person. And I've seen it also in my own workshops, like when one person is opening up, the other people around them, they see like, it's safe to open up in this atmosphere, in this group. And then they also open up and let down the guard. And yeah, it's a beautiful thing. So I think how you can increase the possibility that there is a release happening in a breathwork session, Wim Hof breathing session, is first of all outside support in form of a instructor with a lot of experience, holding space. It's just like very, very helpful. The second thing is obviously your intention. If you have the intention of liberating yourself and like becoming free and reconnecting to the life force and stuff like that, there is an intelligence in the system that is looking for situations where you can heal yourself. And you have the intention, then there's a situation where you're safe, somebody's holding space, and then in a perfect situation is also if also the group is it's a group where you trust the other people. And yeah, it's just like when you go into adventures together and are vulnerable, the trust is rising up when nobody's being attacked after being vulnerable. And for example, if you go into ice baths together and do the breathing together, people just like one person is opening up after the other. There's vulnerability and safety at the same time. And so then your system knows, okay, now's the time. Let's go. Let's rearrange internally. So intention, experienced space holder like a Wim Hof instructor or a trauma therapist, and a good situation, and then it's happen automatically. This is not something you can actually achieve. It's only something where you can create circumstances that make healing possible. And this is what we do in the retreats also. We try to bring the best atmosphere to the place that we can. And then it's not in our hands. You bring the intention, you bring the wisdom that's inside of yourself, and we can provide the space. Tip, what is helping in healing trauma is that there are 2 ways of approaching it. One is the bottom-up approach. So we go into the somatic, into the body, like in the Wim Hof method with the breathing, and open up and then feel into the system and experience how things are shifting. And it's very in the sense of feeling, sensory experience, and in this world, and approach it from there. And then there's the top-down approach, where we more come with our understanding and with our thoughts. And the patterns have both components, when you hold back something, obviously it's also a physical thing. You really hold it in with your muscular tension, but also it's like a tension in your mind, like a contraction of your mind. And the contraction consists of a certain belief about things. And then when you understand this contraction in your mind better, also this can let go, and something else becomes possible. I want to give you an example about a typical contraction or typical belief. It would be the idea that as a child, you do your thing, you're playing, and then the parents don't like that when you're so loud, or you do dangerous things, and then they say, stop that, and stuff like this. And then you learn, okay, I cannot be my natural self and receive love and stay connected to my parents at the same time. Maybe they leave the connection and say, you're a bad child, or something like this. And then you create this internal conflict where you think it's not possible to have connection and expressing my needs and myself at the same time. And this keeps living inside of yourself. And then when you understand this dynamic more and more, how this comes into being, you develop more compassion with this pattern, instead of putting pressure on it to change, but understanding it and seeing like you would interact with a person. There you would also create a better solution when you get the person, when you understand the person. Say, hey, I get you. What you are doing is making sense to me. I understand that. And then there's a more likely possible that the person is opening up. And the same is true for those patterns. When you fight them or against them, there's more constriction. And when you start understanding them and give you compassion to them, it's a relief. And this will re-establish the natural flow. The idea is the health is already there. And what we are doing with this whole trauma healing is just we look at what is blocking the natural flow, understanding it, relaxing, and then the natural health, the natural expression is then re-established. So for this, it's also necessary to understand those patterns and watch yourself in everyday life. How now we are not children anymore. I guess when you're watching this, you're not a child, but those patterns, they have a life in itself, and we keep them alive by repeating them all the time, right? And now for me, it's definitely clear now that I understand, slowly get more and more understanding about those patterns, I can see myself, for example, putting away my needs in order not to cause conflict, and then create resentment with the person. And then now I understand more what I'm doing there, and I'm compassionate with myself, and also can take more responsibility about my actions, and not just blaming the other person. I'll say, I'm creating this right now. And when I'm creating it, maybe I can stop creating this also. And so it creates more freedom when you have more awareness of what is actually going on. So when you take back a step and see the broader, the bigger picture. One thing I want to say here, when you observe your own patterns, it's very important. It's not about judging. It's looking at them with compassion, and then still taking agency at the same time, taking responsibility, but without blaming or judging yourself. But instead, with the background, I understand what you're doing, but also I see right now this behavior doesn't help anymore, and maybe it's more helpful to do something else and practice something else right now. So what do I mean by practicing something else? Actually, I mean just letting go and being our authentic, true self, which means sensing ourselves, sensing our body, sensing our needs, feeling our emotions, following our heart, following the career that we like, speaking honestly with other people about what we need and what we don't need, what we don't like, and just be ourselves, how Mother Nature meant it to be, Wim Hof would say, And when we start practicing that again and reclaiming that, there will come this voice from the childhood that says no, it's too dangerous, right? And it's not just a voice in the head, it can also be physically intense, when you sometimes maybe express your truth, and then afterwards you feel guilty or oh my God, I did something horrible, and or something like this. You learn in the ice bath to hold intensity. So this is where the Wim Hof method comes in again. In the ice bath, we go into a physically intense situation. Maybe there's also a voice that says, oh my God, what's going on? This is really intense. And then you practice to grow the part of yourself that can hold intensity, because you breathe through it, you stay with the situation, and you learn, even if it feels intense, I'm safe. Nothing really bad is happening. I go out of the ice bath, actually I feel awesome, and actually nothing bad happened. And wonderfully, you can transfer this to this situation where the internal voice, or like, the patterns want to hold you back, and then you can look at them and hold them and say, okay, actually we're safe, nothing bad is gonna happen. So this whole process of trauma healing is actually, in my opinion, a process of reconnecting to all parts of ourselves, to the hurt part, to the authentic part, integrating it all, bringing it all together, healing it, and in this wonderful union, just be our authentic and true natural self. Happy, strong, and healthy. Right, let's wrap it up. Good news. There's actually a way to heal trauma, and the Wim Hof method is really, really powerful to support this whole process. And I think personally that it's especially powerful if you combine it with additional learning about those patterns, learning about this whole thing, trauma, what it is, how it works, reading about the NARM approach. I highly, highly recommend it. Meditation, practicing in a group, get space holders, and just like, I mean, you know, it's not a one-day thing, you know. It's something you have to pursue a little bit, but with the intention and those tools, it's possible to heal, and it's awesome because those patterns are, coming from generation to generation until someone is actually taking care of them and looking at them and just resolving them. So if you do that, it's awesome for future generations to come. They will feel great. If you want to find more information, official information about the awesome Wim Hof method, you find this on www.wimhofmethod.com. It's the official platform, and what I'm saying is just my personal opinion as a human being and Wim Hof instructor. If you want to hear more what I have to say about these topics of trauma healing and the Wim Hof method and stuff like that, go to my website michaelnuss.de, and there you will also find guided breathing sessions and my Wim Hof workshops and retreats in Germany, Austria, and Poland. I wish you all the best on your journey and lots of compassion with yourself and connection and a lot of joy in life. Bye bye.